Hello, everyone. I'm with Alison Morrow, a fellow locals creator. We're just going to chat a little bit about who she is and what she's doing on locals, what you're doing publicly, all the things. Welcome to our little hangout.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I would love to hear, and just for the audience, to know a little bit about you first from the top, just what you're doing. And I know that you just mentioned you're a YouTuber.
Well, I used to be a TV reporter. I was a TV news reporter for almost 15 years, and I quit in 2019 to both renovate an Airstream and move sort of off grid. We are still in the process of renovating the Airstream, so that to serve as a warning to anyone who thinks Instagram is real life and that it's you just get the Airstream and then you've got a million followers and you're making bank. And maybe you can hear my toddler. She apparently is, yes, outside the door. She's my producer. So anyone who watches my videos knows my producer. They are getting younger in the TV business as well, and usually are very unhelpful. And she just got into my room with the dog. So, hey, Lynn. Okay, could you come get her? Sorry.
That's all right.
So my husband's technical director, and hey, Lily. Okay, she can say hi. You want to say hi? So this
Hi.
is the producer. It's a family operation. Would you like to say hi? I mean, you might as well. No. Okay, he doesn't. Sorry, he's behind the scenes. She's a producer, so every once in a while, later on. So back when I was in TV news, I had real producers who usually did not interrupt the show, but sometimes they were equally unhelpful. It just depended on who you were working with. And honestly, like, I worked with a lot of really great people in TV news, but the system itself really, I think, is set up to cycle information so rapidly that even if you're a well-meaning, heart in the right place journalist, it is near impossible to do real journalism anymore. So I quit and I decided I took a job actually with the Washington Department of Natural Resources shooting videos, but that also just sort of start building up my independent media stuff. And that was partially because when you're in the news business, especially television news, you're a brand, right? Like, they own everything about you. They own your hair and your makeup and your name even and all this stuff, your social media and all this stuff. So you can't really do something on the side. And so it was like, I could either go cold turkey or I could find something that was like, okay, eventually I want to be an independent media thing. I don't know. Like, I want to do interviews and I want to tell people about what it's like living in the middle of nowhere and, just kind of questioning the narrative that I had lived for a long time and showing people how I was going through that process of kind of unlearning the corporate establishment way of thinking and relearning kind of what I'd been missing over the last couple decades. And interestingly, so I started building up the independent work, and then that ends up getting me fired from my other job. So now I'm a full-time, I don't even know what to call myself. I don't know if podcaster is really like word because it's video, not just audio. I don't know. What do you call yourself? A podcaster?
No, at this point, I think the easiest answer to that question would be a media personality, just because it's more all encompassing, as much as I hate that term and it makes me want to go walk into the ocean. Yeah. Somebody described me that way. Well, it's better than like Twitter celebrity, which is also something I've been introduced as, but yeah, I was like, I'm going to go walk into the ocean now. So I'm a writer and a comedian and also have a YouTube show and also have a podcast. And like you, there isn't really like a catch-all for what we're creators, and people hate that term too.
That's true. That's probably the best word, but you're right. It's starting to become a little glib now. Like, it's just been used. It's been overused maybe.
And I think that is interesting. I had a whole conversation with somebody about their resistance to that word. And I came to Los Angeles to be a creative, maybe creative. I came here to be a writer, to be a performer, to write television shows. So I don't have that same resistance to that term, but I agree. It's like anything. I mean, I definitely react to like influencer, and I find that to be like a negative.
I don't want to influence anyone.
No,
really.
I don't either. That is the opposite of what I want to do. What is the opposite of an influencer? Because that's what I am.
A non-fluencer. An outfluencer. An outfluencer.
I think you coined it.
I'm an outfluencer. I'm totally putting that on a t-shirt. I have 2 t-shirts now. Just from this one podcast.
That's awesome. So what are you, so you do stuff that's more social commentary, and then you also do stuff that's just like van life. Is that what the YouTube is?
Well, so we started a second channel because I realized that the audiences are kind of coming to you expecting one thing, and so it's like, and my producer just came back into the room.
I love your producer.
So apparently we need better locks on doors. Anyway, I have a
pack in place.
Yes, sorry about that. Where I wish I could use the excuse of living in the trailer right now as the reason that there are no doors and my toddler keeps coming in, but that's not actually the case. We live in a house as we are renovating the Airstream. And I should just add, if you're interested in getting into that world of renovating a trailer and then living in and stuff, the amount of time that it takes is incredible compared to what you think. And if you think then you're just going to give it to somebody else to finish for you, be careful, because we had this idea before COVID and everything, but as soon as COVID hit and traveling in a trailer became the thing to do, now you're waiting 2 to 3 years for somebody to renovate your trailer for you. So even if we just punted it to somebody else, it would probably be 2023 or 24 before we would even be able to live in it. So it's like really kind of just going to have to do it ourselves. And then the supply issue is a big problem now too, and just the price of lumber and all this stuff. So we had the right idea, but we really should have moved on it faster before it became the thing everybody else is doing. But anyway, yeah, so I keep that kind of separate. And then what I do now, on my original platforms is media commentary, mostly just to kind of give people a sneak peek at what really goes on behind the scenes. Because I think a lot of people have very creative ideas of the manipulation and control and tyranny within a newsroom, and need to, I think, understand that actually the vast majority of people in a newsroom are more like a stormtrooper. There's like really only one Darth Vader. There's not a bunch of Darth Vaders walking around that want to take over the world. And yeah, so if you really want to understand how these narratives get spun and what's going on, in order to, either just become a better consumer of the news, or like me, be an outfluencer, and maybe, you are trying to sort of speak to your peers and say, hey guys, let's start admitting that we have issues. And at least, just like I always say, like, go on the 5 o'clock news and say, thanks for watching your 5 o'clock news. This is the best we could do. Take it with a grain of salt. We only had so much time, instead of saying this is the most trusted name in news, which is what we always do. It's like, we just shouldn't say that. We should just say we had 3 hours a day to put this together. We don't completely know what we're talking about because we really just didn't have time, and we all biases. So, watch us and then go find some other people. Like, if we were honest about it, I think I'd be more comfortable. But that's what I try to help people with, is just having a better understanding of how the sausage is made.
Yeah. Media literacy.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So how did you end up on Locals?
A friend of mine, actually, one of the supporters on my YouTube channel, who was also in the military like my husband, reached out because he lived in the same area in Seattle. And he was like, you really should get on this platform called Locals. And was telling me some of the people that were on it already, like Viva Frey and Robert Barnes are a couple of attorneys that I've had on, and was just like, hey, if you're going to be talking about the stuff that's eventually going to get you censored on YouTube, like, you should have a backup. And plus, you can actually start to grow income there in a way that is very difficult on YouTube unless you're getting gazillions of views.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, I've got nothing to lose. And then my buddy Eric Hunley, who also, I think, I can't remember if he was already on it or he just got on it, or if we got on it together, because we started doing a weekly News with Booze show. So like every Wednesday night, we talk about news and drink, and so he was getting on it too. So I was like, well, why not? Might as well try it. And it's been great because it really is, I think, the most reliable source of income, but also I use it like an editorial board. I have my supporters give me great story ideas. A lot of them know more than I do. And so instead of like spending hours trying to figure out what am I going to talk about today or what do people want to know about, it's just been a really great way to just have ideas of what people are interested in hearing from somebody who used to work in the news business. So it serves a lot of purposes, and it's just a fun community to be a part of. I've really enjoyed I think it feels like people, most of them, I do have a few people who pay to troll, but that's fine. It works at the grocery store. It works at the grocery store just like everybody else is $5. But for the most part, it seems like people are coming there with sort of just like good faith effort to learn things and contribute things, and not just there to just kick up dust. And so I like that too about the platform.
What do you put behind the paywall that's different than from what you put, for your front facing kind of content that you put out?
Most of what I put for just the supporters is like personal family stuff, or just updates on things like my dog died earlier last year, and so like I did a video about that and pictures and stuff. And so I think only supporters know about things that I think are just a little bit more, I don't want to say like vulnerable, but just more personal, that I don't necessarily feel like, it wouldn't be like I would feel terrible putting it out there for everybody, but just something, if you really want to participate in the community, you want to know what's going on behind the scenes with me, I feel like you've contributed to giving me the opportunity to be on the platform and to do this full time. And so like sometimes it's just, hey guys, like this is what's happening in my life and this is why you haven't heard from me in a few days, just want to let you know. And just to stay in touch really with, like I said, it's like an editorial board, so it's almost like I look at my supporters in some way, like not just really an audience, but as coworkers, if that sounds right. So instead of checking in and saying, how's everybody doing? This is what's going on with me. So anything that's of that nature and isn't just like all business, that's usually what I put for supporters.
Yeah, I really like the community aspect of it. It was something that was unexpected to me, just that tribe, I guess, that kind of grows up around these in everyone's community that I've interviewed seems to take on the personality of the person who started their page. And it's really fascinating too how close you can get to some of the people. Are you finding that the people within your community are also making their own independent relationships
with each other?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And yes, like I said, good and bad, but but yeah, and that's a great thing too, because I don't really like the top-down model.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate that there are people who, like I said, know more than I do and are there to answer questions. And I don't have to be the person saying, oh, let me, I gotta figure that out. I don't really know the answer to that. That they're just like other people in the room that have more to contribute. And I think that's really valuable. And I do think also people will share about their own, like, because they know that I'm doing kind of the move towards homesteading and stuff. So now they'll post stuff about their ducks in the winter or something like that. And then someone else can say, oh, have you tried this to keep your ducks alive when it's -6? It's something that like I don't know the answer to yet. I don't have ducks yet. So yeah, so that's that's really great. It really is awesome, and it takes, I think, a lot of pressure too off the person whose page it is to always be responding constantly, like, oh gosh, I got another comment, I got another question, and there are other people there to help carry that weight, and that's not a bad thing. That's like a really good thing. They like that. It's not like you're just bouncing on your responsibility. It's like that's the value of being part of the community. And so that's really cool.
Yeah. In the homesteading world, is there a move for more people to, what does that look like? Do you buy a piece of land and then just live off the grid?
I think it can take on the personality of anyone who's going that direction. Like you could be full on off grid, killing your own chickens and doing that thing, or maybe you're just like trying to be a little bit more self-sufficient and not part of the infrastructure that you rely on in a city. So the way I look at it is becoming more self-reliant and more self-sufficient a lot. And it's a journey, not necessarily a destination. You're constantly learning and trying to figure out how to have better water or how to have healthier food. And really a lot of it too is the network, because you can't, it's difficult to do it all by yourself. So you start realizing like your neighbor does this and this other neighbor does that and you do this. And so it becomes its own economy where you're bartering or buying direct, and you start to gain a lot more knowledge. And then that really sometimes leads you to change the way you do things entirely. But when we were in Seattle, we relied on the city for everything, for garbage disposal, for water, for sewage, for electricity, all that stuff. And there was, besides the fact that it's very expensive, and that's one of the great things about moving out of that way of living, is that you have more freedom to do things. Like a lot of people are like, oh God, especially nowadays under COVID, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to, I have to quit my job or whatever. I lost my job. And it's very difficult sometimes to just look at, okay, well, I guess I'm going to stay in Seattle and where you need a 6-figure salary. I think I'm starting to hear more and more from people that they're choosing where they're living now, not the way we used to based on geography, or I just like the temperature there or whatever. It's becoming a values-based move. So people saying, I want to live my life differently. And in order to afford to do that, or to have the capacity to do that for other reasons, I'm going to this place. I hear that more and more than I've heard in a long time. People having sort of a values-based reason to like get out of the city and try to find some independence from it, because the more you're relying on the infrastructure that somebody else is in control of, really the less freedom that you have. And maybe that's a monetary thing, because we were paying hundreds and hundreds of dollars for utilities in Seattle, whereas now it's probably $800. I mean, and that's just power. We're on a well, we're on septic. We don't really pay hardly anything. We take our trash to the dump ourselves. So we don't even have garbage pickup. It's like $8 to drop your garbage off at the dump. And so it just offers the opportunity then to open up the world of work to do different things like what I'm doing right now.
Yeah, it's funny, as you're talking, I'm thinking about how in many ways Locals is like my digital homestead.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's somewhere that I found it appeared really exactly at the moment that I started worrying about plan Bs for deplatforming, feeling like I was too reliant on these obviously very biased in one direction tech platforms. And at the time I was making most of my livelihood from either writing or promoting that writing. You need those places to kind of promote to a certain extent. And I was also on Patreon, and that it was around the time where people were getting kind of just booted left and right for no reason from there. And I felt that having all my eggs in one basket was really terrifying, and I had to break away and go somewhere that wasn't so reliant on the infrastructure someone else has created. Now, in many ways, someone else is creating this infrastructure, but Locals seems particularly devoted to the idea of that independence and freedom for its creators. So it might provide some of the infrastructure, but they seem very highly aware of what people are facing and giving us the opportunity to build these communities where it's amazing just the freedom in my mind that I get, being able to say what I want to say, see people have conversations that they can't have at work or in their families, and post things, just that I wouldn't necessarily post elsewhere. Just be able to have our dumpster fire unedited posted there, and know that it's sure, someone might be in there trolling and rip it, and it's not all private, but it still feels like I know I'm not just suddenly going to have my livelihood cut off overnight with no real explanation.
That is such an astute observation, and I hope Locals coins that they are the digital homestead. yours and everybody else's, but that is such a good analogy. And it's true. If you really do start to think about it, there is this whole other world of information and I know it's like its own reality. Obviously it's virtual, but people changing their real lives based on that information. And you said something once when I was listening to one of your podcasts with Batya Unger Sargon, am I saying that right?
Yeah.
And you said you were talking about how you're very aware of the mind's ability to trick itself, right? Or lie to itself.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing I like about locals is that as somebody who really is trying to tackle some tough topics, and so is kind of the wild west of information, you're going after the censored topics, the censored people. There's an information war happening around, you're really trying to understand it and not get played. But at the same time, you have to realize that you're a human being with biases and your own issues, and it offers that check and balance, I think, on somebody like me who is genuinely trying to figure out what's going on in a way that now I have time to do, where I didn't have that when I was in corporate news. And because it is sort of a new terrain, like it's the new homestead, these are like your neighbors who are like, hey, Allison, I mean, just so you know, if you feed your chickens like rat poison, it's not gonna, just so you know, I don't know if you read the ingredients yet, but like that's the bad stuff, or you know what I mean. And so you just have people around you that have been to different places and have looked into this new world of information that you're going into, and can just offer some pushback on the narratives that are tugging you in one direction or another. And so like that community aspect of it, that like you said, like that homesteading aspect where you are really kind of moving into a new terrain, but you have other people with you to do it. And I know depending on what the topic is that you're focused on, it's different. But like in my world, like I said, I'm going after topics and people that are very controversial. And so it's easy to get swept up in some of it. And I like that my community feels comfortable to like put the red flag up and say, this is the pushback on this person, or this is why this idea, isn't as great when played out in reality as the person who's trying to sell it to you sounds. And like, oh, I never thought about that. And it really is. It's a community, like, I know I've already said this, but it is a community in a way that I never had in my newsrooms, because oddly, you'd think in a newsroom, there would be encouragement for people to think outside the box. But more and more, it had become obvious to me that there were just certain topics and certain ways of thinking through topics that were heretical for journalists, and so you just didn't hear many people questioning them, and this space feels like a place where you can it's like my toddler, like it's a safe place to fall on your ass, and you can figure out, okay, I don't want to do it that way next time, or that idea, that the reason that idea doesn't work is because of this. And you can think through it, even in the way that when I was in graduate school, I felt like in graduate school, even it was like, don't say that, or don't ask that, so having that wide open terrain intellectually, especially the intellectual homestead, it's such a great point. So yeah, thank you for giving me that idea. I'm going to do a video about it.
Good. I think more people are gravitating to these places. What I love seeing is my community creating their own little homestead. So we have a woman who is a businesswoman, Constance, and she actually renovates Airstreams, and she has like
Constance, please.
I'll put you in touch. She's like a whiz and a genius, and she has like 3 small businesses. She also has another business that does t-shirt printing, so you can get your t-shirts from her. She's really intelligent about small businesses, and so many people started asking her for advice in the community because she was just active and talking about small businesses. And now she started her own like biz niche little homestead, basically, where she's giving all this advice away for nothing. It's barely anything. And we had another chef who was always posting his sauces and all the stuff that he was making, and now he has his own little own community. So it's been really exciting for me to see people really, not everybody is as engaged, but the people who are super engaged, they they get the encouragement and it's a safe space for them to try their ideas out, and then enough people are telling them, hey, maybe you should do this, and now they have their own things going on. And I love that aspect of seeing people inspire other people to take these risks creatively and in their businesses. And they're all helping each other. We have like 3 beekeepers in my community. So, and no, it's crazy. There's a whole like bee community in my.
Bees. People who love bees love bees.
Mm-hmm.
Like same with birds. That's what I noticed as I was my specialty was in the environment when I was my last job as a reporter. And bee people and bird people, they're hardcore. I have a bee guy too in my community, and he sent me honey and lotion that he makes from the honey, and I sent him a SCOBY. Do you know what a SCOBY is?
No.
Out of it. I'd show it to you right now, but I'd have to go into the kitchen and then my toddler would see me. But it's SCOBY stands for symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeast. You know
it's like the mother. Is it like, okay, yeah. Okay.
So I like send my community, I'll mail them, because the mother grows the baby SCOBY. So you can, like, I'm overrun with SCOBYs and you just throw them out, which I always feel sad about. I mean, I know they're not like personality or anything. They don't know I'm killing them, but they are alive. I mean, it's bacteria. So I was like, oh, I gotta throw in the trash. So I'm trying to figure out ways to get rid of them. And so I send my SCOBYs to people who want to learn how to make kombucha. And then they usually send me something back, which has been another cool thing. So the guy that's the beekeeper in my community sent me some amazing honey and lotion. That's really great. But he says you can't wear the lotion if you become a beekeeper, because then the bees attack you because you smell like they're honey.
Oh, interesting. I learned so much about, I would call it homestead light, or like off the grid light. We were living on, I've lived on ashrams and I've lived on farms in Southern Oregon. And I was amazed at how natural so much of it felt, like the compostable toilets I actually loved, because I wasn't just like wasting water, and you can't pee in the compostable toilet, so you have to like just pee in the woods, which is interesting to get used to when you're a woman. And all of it was just, there was so much of it that felt so good to me, like composting and reusing everything, and the lack of waste and garbage, and just I remember just feeling like I had become so disconnected from that, living in a city. Yeah. And now I'm back in a city.
Well, and it's so unfortunate how that topic, and I think some of it's probably purposeful, is used to divide people politically. Because as you just described, that actually caring about natural resources and our impact on natural resources gives us independence if it's done right. The way it's often spun is like, it has to either be government control or you just hate the environment. Right. And that's such a false dichotomy. So it's been one of the things that I think I've tried to model to, and then like learn from other people in my community, is how you can both care about your impact, because it's not just good for the environment or for natural resources, it's good for you. It's this, we have this symbiotic relationship with the earth around us, and actually, like, the efforts, I totally understand people who are concerned about the efforts of government to come in and say, okay, well, it has to be this way and we have to do it that way, and it means you're going to lose all these rights, but that doesn't mean you have to just give up on your health and the environment. And I think that's often it's like either you're in one camp or the other, like, oh, that's crap, I'm going to McDonald's, screw you, or you have to have like a Tesla and believe in carbon tax and all this other stuff, and government control. And I think that more and more, I used to not believe this when I was in the news business. I would have said you're a conspiracy theorist if you said this, but more and more I think it's framed that way because it does keep people just arguing and bickering instead of realizing that they have a lot more in common and can move forward together. It's much easier to control people, I think, when they're fighting like that over things that actually aren't even true.
I love that. That is one of the areas that I've really appreciated my community. Like you said, they're a check. And I've found that it's easy, and we have such a diverse group of people, from pretty, conspiratorial to people who are not, who would consider themselves very liberal. And it's nice to have the check on also just throwing out anything that's mainstream as wrong. It's like
Right.
you'll go in one direction and then it's like, okay, well, pull yourself back from just throwing the baby out with the bathwater, even though it might be this, there is this massive narrative around something. It doesn't mean that that entire thing is a bad idea or the seeds of that idea are wrong. And I'm grateful for my community for constantly kind of pushing back when I go a little bit too far, like down the rabbit hole.
Yeah. Well, and you're like not a CIA operative. I got that a lot at first when you're just putting CIA talking points in there. Like, cause if I would say anything like semi-mainstream, it's like, okay, Alison's definitely undercover for the CIA and she's infiltrated locals and everything. I'm like, I don't even know enough to be in the CIA. Like I would get fired right away. There's no way, but yeah, I totally know what you mean.
Well, where can we find you online and where can we find your community?
Locals, I'm AlisonMorrow.locals.com, and it's Alison with one L. So I would say I'm one L of a gal. Actually, somebody else told me that when I was in Knoxville, at my old station. But yeah, so I find me there. I think what I've been doing now is I am on YouTube, but I use it more as a place to like throw in the fishing net and then hope to get people over, because it's
you on Rumble?
Like you said. Well, I'm not on. Okay, I have my account set up on Rumble. I just haven't. I need to
migrated.
Yeah,
you should, because Rumble now is integrated with Locals in a way in which it makes it very easy to support you on Locals. If they're viewing you on Rumble, they can just click a button, and so that integration is actually really nice. I appreciate that Rumble is very supportive of the independents and not just reliant on, they're making it easy for you to go make a living independently of them, which is cool.
Yeah, no, you're right. I know. I've had the Rumble thing on my list for the last 3 weeks. I really need to get on that. Yes. So you can soon find me on Rumble. And I am, like I said, I'm on YouTube and I'm on Rockfin, and Odyssey syncs up my YouTube channel. But, when it comes to YouTube, especially, I just got my third suspension. I had my first two were reversed when I appealed them, but the third one stuck because I interviewed a doctor who said one positive thing about ivermectin, and that was overboard. And what's really funny is that the people who have gotten me suspended on YouTube have been doctors. So it's crazy to me that these people are practicing medicine. So they're like, obviously they have a license to practice medicine, but they can't talk about it on YouTube. It's so weird. Like if they were quacks, why would they have a license? It's the Odyssey. It's crazy, right? What the Odyssey founder said once when I had him on, that it's harder or the bar is higher to speak about medicine on YouTube than it is to practice medicine in the United States of America.
Yeah.
So Locals has been a great place too, because this is one other thing I do. So before I have an interview, like I know I'm going to be talking to somebody, I post the day before usually and say, hey, this person's going to be on. What do you want me to ask them? And
I do the same thing.
It's great, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like, on one hand, the questions are often better than stuff that I would come up with. Because like I said, a lot of these people know more than I do. But it also really feels like the kind of news that I wish I could have done when I was in the news business, bringing the interview directly to the people and really making it like the people's information, like people's news.
Yeah.
And so, that's been another great thing. So AlisonMorrow.locals.com. See you there.
Yeah, that is great too, because I find that the people in the community are they have more time to consume a lot more media than I do. So for instance, I interviewed Amanda Knox, and she's done tons of media, and I was like, what questions haven't you heard her asked? So they just have they have a often better idea of what people have been talking about and what's already been rehashed, and have a sense of what they feel like they would want to know about somebody, or what hasn't been pushed back on, or or what is interesting about a person that really hasn't been explored. So I love using there, and it's an amazing resource. It really is just an amazing resource of really good people.
It gives, I think, somebody like me who's especially focused on news topics or like interviews like you, the opportunity to not just like expand the questions or the ideas that come out in the topics, but I really do think it takes, like I said earlier, it takes the burden off of you to be working like 24/7 because you have a team. It really feels like you have a team, and I really feel like my team now, especially we had this call the other day with, it was like, I think the locals and Rumble CEOs, we like, and then a lot of the creators were on it. It was just so that you could hear what was going on with the merger. And I was looking at all the people that were in the call, and I'm like, this is my new newsroom. This feels like my new, these are my new coworkers in a way. And it was just so cool to look at the breadth and variety of people, thinking back on how intellectually homogenous the world was that I came from. And now to see how much variety there is with the people that are on this platform. And even though we are all doing our own thing, we are creating something together.
It's true.
Right? Because it's like we all bring a different perspective, and we bring different discussions to the platform, and it just becomes like its own news channel in a way. Like you can get all kinds of different thoughts, and some of us may be very different. And you just get so much more out of it than I think what you can get nowadays in just mainstream information.
It's so true. It's so true. It's a network, but it's an actually diverse network. It's not just everyone parroting the same thing. I was on that same call and noticed just how vastly different the array of people was, and it was refreshing to see. You generally don't see that kind of ideological diversity all on one Zoom call, ever.
No.
So it was definitely inspiring.
Imagine if a newsroom like a CNN or Fox or MSNBC decided to have that kind of variety. What it would be like. I don't know. They'd probably have to censor themselves, but
they'd win. I mean, probably, but they'd win. But then, like you said, they'd probably win over the people. But like you said, I think that's the division is a feature, not a bug.
Yeah, totally.
So I've really enjoyed getting to know you, and I'm excited for your community. I hope people go check it out and check you out and your videos out, and go find you on Rumble and everywhere, and YouTube. You'll be on Rumble.
Yes.
Go find your channel.
Now there's no turning back now.
And go to your locals, and I will see you around. I'll have to have you on my podcast.
That'd be great. Thanks, Bridget. I appreciate it.
Thank you.